Good morning and happy Monday. It's Spa Water Monday. That's the vibes we're giving. Lemon, cucumber, and mint. That's my infusion of the day. We missed last week, but we're here and we are ready. My name's Alyssa. Welcome back to Room for Sunshine. It is Monday morning, October. It is a Monday in October. I'm drinking infused water, which I haven't done for a really long time, but it's time to bring it back because it's getting hot here while it gets cold, probably wherever you're listening. So bring it on. My name's Alyssa. Welcome back to Room for Sunshine. So we did miss a week last week. Oops. There's the pillow. We missed a week last week, and I am sorry about that. It was a dense and emotional week, which is really when I should come to the podcast and be like, it was a dense and emotional week. But I needed my own personal processing time before I could talk about it, because obviously I'm going to talk about it. But it was just like, sometimes some things are too raw. And I also was very sick. So I had an emotional thing that made me physically sick. And I was basically just in bed binging Nobody Wants This. Shout out to them. Perfect show to arrive at the perfect time when I was so sick and needing nothing more than that whatever that was, that romance to restore my hope in humanity. Anyways, I was just talking to my best friend earlier this week, and she and I had these weird parallel situations that happened with men in our lives who, like, what is the word to describe? I'm going to say challenged us, dramatically challenged us, and mistreated. Mistreated is the other word I'm going to throw in there. So challenged and mistreated us, and we know about these men in each other's lives. We have both, had our fair share of venting sessions and stories. And the thing is neither of us knew until a little bit later. She knew about mine before I knew about hers, but they happened like literally the same day. And it leads right into today's episode, which is, how do you untangle a deep knot? And I mean that figuratively or quite literally, like, what do you do when you've got a ball of yarn tied up and there's all of these connected things and you need to untie it? How do you handle that? And more specifically, how do you handle that when it is somebody who you either work with or socialize with, or better yet, both? In my case, that one. And I think this is important because it has to do with boundaries, right? It has to do with, how do you set a boundary for yourself? How do you protect yourself? How do you take care of yourself? This is a self-care podcast to a degree, right? Like, we want to be taking care of our beings. We want to be functioning out in the world at our highest potential, whatever that might be. So with my situation, basically, to not dive too deep into the story, I was mistreated to a borderline unforgiving degree by somebody that I work with. And in that moment, I was just in this state of first fight or flight. Like, my body just wanted to get out of the situation. My mind went into panic and anxiety, which is not my default. I normally default annoyance or even depression, but I was anxious. I was just so on edge. I was so triggered by so many of the things that happened. And then as I took a few days to myself to really slow down and peel back and be like, what do I want to do about this situation? Because I know that it's not a situation that's good for me. I had this moment where I was like, wow, this is super messy. This is super messy. This is very entangled. And we all have relationships like these, whether they're personal or professional. You have people in your life who, one, maybe you've built something with over a certain length of time. So you have time. That could be one thing that makes it messy. You could have overlapping interests, as in you are coworkers or you are best friends with the same friends. That's another potential mess of knots. And it goes on and on, right? There's so many ways in which we get deeply entangled with other people that we meet. And so when we look at all of those entanglements, when I looked at all of mine, I was just like, oh shit, I can't walk away from this person. How would I walk away from somebody who I'm overlapped with this and this and this and this and this with? And then not to mention the thing that's being dangled over my head. And all of these factors start to settle in, and it can make you feel hopeless. Or at least for myself, and when I spoke to my friend who was in a similar situation, there was a helpless quality for two people who know how to help themselves. That doesn't feel good. To feel like you are so caught in a mess that you don't want to be in, but you don't know how to get out of. And so a lot of us have probably at some point or another experienced a relationship like this. Some call it a toxic relationship. And I've experienced them before. And I want to just start by saying I think the most important thing to remember always is to prioritize your health. If your physical, mental, or emotional well-being are ever at stake, that is the red flag of red flags. That is the ref throwing in all the flags and going, this is not good for you. And I think we need to say that because it's so easy as a woman, for sure, but as a human being, to immediately start justifying why it's okay or not okay that something happened to you. And then going beyond that, like creating a story around why you deserve it or need to stay in it, or what somebody or something has to offer you that you can't offer yourself. And red flag number 2, which happened to both my friend and I, we both went through these narratives where we were like, I need this person. Again, a toxic relationship is one where you are codependent to any degree on that person. And so I would encourage you, if you've ever been in this situation or end up in this one again, to start at least changing the narrative that you need anybody. The analogy that I used with my friend, this came on the spot and I will share it, is just because someone opens a door for you does not mean that they are the key holder to that door indefinitely. Right? Think about the scope of your life. How many people have opened a door for you? How many people have introduced you to a friend or given you a job opportunity or put in a good letter of recommendation or a word of rec, whatever? Once that person does that thing, you are on your own. That person does not control everything that happens thereafter. My point is to say, all we can do is take care of ourselves as best as we can. That is it. That is all that we are responsible for doing. We cannot control how other people manipulate or, challenge us. We can only choose how we take care of ourselves and how we respond. So getting back to the tangled mess of knots, which happens, it's just a reality of any relationship. You have to go one knot at a time. And for me in my situation, I started with, okay, what is the most relevant thing that I need to deal with right now? Because I can't deal with 100 things at once, but I can say, this is my practical action that I am about to take to help this one baby knot. And that knot might be so small, right? Like it might be as tiny as I just need to, unfollow this person, or I just need to say no to this one project, or I just need to remove myself for a week's time. One knot at a time. We cannot try and be the cat that goes head first into all the yarn and goes, I'm going to rip it apart with my teeth, because we are not that skilled. I am not that skilled. I don't think anyone is that skilled. And unless you're ready to cut ties completely, which there is a time and a place, absolutely, to be like, hard line, hard no, I'm out. Absolutely. Yes. Go off if that's you. But at least for my situation and my friend's situation, we are both in positions where we're like, we are not drawing hard lines like that. But we know that something isn't right and something's not good for us, and we need to make changes so that we feel better in these relationships, in these partnerships, in our lives. The spa water is so soothing, which I needed in that moment. I was getting heated. All of this is just simply to say, basically, I am still in this process, right? I'm not coming to you with some, I healed this wound and I took care of this situation. Like, we are in the trenches right now. As much as you could be, I'm in the battle zone. I'm going one day at a time, literally one breath at a time. But for anything that you might be going through in your life, or if there is a relationship that you have right now that you would maybe label as unhealthy or toxic, first of all, just a reminder that you have all the tools you need to support yourself. You do not need this thing. And someone is probably like, I actually really do need that person. And I get it, right? I mean, I have not been married. I'm sure that feels very entangled. But in any of these situations, we have to take care of ourselves first. And then we need to go really gently and carefully, because we also don't want to blow the whole thing up into flames unless that's what needs to happen. And little by little, we can start to feel the weight of whatever we've been carrying minimize if we continue to thoughtfully untie one knot at a time. And so for myself, I started by laying out exactly what my scope of the next 2 months was going to look like. What are my responsibilities that I need to take care of? What are the conversations that need to be had? Which ones don't need to be had at all? Which ones don't need to be had right now? And I just compartmentalized. I was like, okay, you know what? This conversation, not urgent. This is going to go over here. The thing that is urgent, addressing this next upcoming event. Great. And when we start to show ourselves like, hey, I can untie this one knot. I can free myself from this burden, or free myself from this, weight that I am carrying, or this so-called responsibility that I feel. And then we can take care of the next knot. And then hopefully, I'm not there yet, but eventually we untie it down to the degree that we want it untied to. And it's for you. It's not for the other person. So whether or not they become aware of what you're doing, and whether or not they like what you're doing, knots are tight and knots are suffocating. And when you've got a knot in your life that's not working, it's time to untie that shit and say bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay. That's all we're going to go into today. I mean, as I said, I'm a work in progress. I'm still doing it. So when I have more to share, I'll share more. And otherwise, go slow, be gentle, tell a friend. Let's just pause on that for one more second to say, let somebody know what you're going through, because there is so much support that we can gain from our friends and from our community and from our loved ones. And when my friend and I had this vent session, we were like, this is crazy. This is crazy. This happened in the same week, and that we are so able to just relate to one another right now and be there for one another with true empathy, because we're like, I know, I had that conversation. I heard that phrase. I know what that feels like. And even if you don't have somebody that's going through the same thing, just to know that somebody is there and know that you don't have to untie the knots alone is really meaningful. But you're not alone. We are here. I am here at Room for Sunshine, and I am wishing you an amazing Monday. Drink some infused water. That's my suggestion for this Monday. Be outside, touch a tree, hug a friend, and take care of yourself. My name's Alyssa, and I will see you next time.